everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell icon. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. We have videos going up daily, but sometimes 2-3 times a day. Every interview, every guest, every memory is priceless, and I won't want to miss any of them. So please make sure you hit that bell icon. Today's guest, many of you already know him. It's Jim Munro. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm well, Russ. How are you going, mate?
Not bad. How's this post-apocalyptic time for you? How's this lockdown?
I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, obviously, when words is your business, having been a journalist for 30-odd years, you could write in an attic with all the windows closed, and as long as you've got some way of sending the words out, you're fine. So, yeah, I've been enjoying it, to be quite honest with you. You get to go to work in your pants. I've had my little lad running around, enjoying having dad at home as well. So it's because obviously he's been off school. Yeah. So we have our work time and a bit of FIFA time for lunch. Play a bit of FIFA on the Xbox. It's been great. I've loved it.
Yeah. I still haven't improved my FIFA game. I thought, all the evenings, and I'm still on Division 10. I'm still crap. But yeah, it's what it is. But I know what you mean. I mean, I've quite, obviously it's horrible if it's happened, but I've quite enjoyed it as well because I haven't got that pressure when it comes to weekends of doing something. Yeah. It's like, we got to go out. We got to go and do shopping.
Mate, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, to be quite honest, I've got friends who've had a real rough time, as you can imagine, freelance sports journalists with no sport to cover for 3 months and nothing really to fill the void. It's been pretty tough for some people out there. I've been fortunate, and I've been fortunate because I've started a new role with a sports agency. Just the timing was just absolutely right for me. So I've been very fortunate. So although I've got a big smile and I'm saying, everything's been wonderful, I know there's a lot of people who've been suffering. So
of course,
extremely grateful that we're in the circumstances we've been in right now, to be honest.
Absolutely, definitely. And obviously football's back. So that's good, isn't it?
To a degree. Let's just qualify that. There's still, as Alex Ferguson used to say, it's still squeaky bum time, doesn't it? We take one step out and then sort of get back in again. But that's the West Ham way. We all know
it's the West Ham way. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We're not in it for the football, are we, Jim? Because
no, I've seen 5 relegations, pal. 5 relegations. I was checking earlier, thinking I know there's been a few. So just make sure we don't go above the handful, shall we? Just keep it at 5 and no more than that.
Yeah, as long as we don't go for the half dozen. That's all right. But yeah, I know it's as you said, 2 steps forward or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and well, they just like to make it interesting. They like to make sure we're tuning in, and watching us against Norwich tomorrow. And
it comes to something, doesn't it, when we're looking at games against Norwich and Watford and Villa to be our salvation. In reality, if we can get a win out of one of those, possibly will be enough. Be interesting. Having had the most points for a team who got relegated, we could find ourselves with the least points for a team that doesn't get relegated.
I know. It'd be brilliant. But apparently, if we win tomorrow, I think that means, based on the results, Norwich could be mathematically relegated tomorrow.
They'll be gone.
So, oh God,
Villa just keep conceding goals left, right, and centre, which is great for us.
I mean, it says something when you have to cheer on Spurs.
I won't say peering, but smiling when score. But I have to say, there's been a lot of criticism about substitutions and what David Moyes is doing. But to be honest, when you're bringing on Haller, who just stands and watches the game go on around him, he's a big lad. Put yourself about a bit. Right, you've only been on the pitch 15 minutes. Run for a bit. Do something. Don't just in there. It's just driving me potty, but I'm sure it is everyone else.
Yeah, it is. And particularly when you see someone like Antonio, who sort of runs his guts out, and Bowen.
Bowen as well. Yeah.
Both of them run their guts out, and you think, God, if Bowen was 2 foot taller, he would be, he'd be a fantastic, forward as well, striker rather than the players.
I mean, that Burnley game, we had 10 corners. Antonio had a chance he should really put away straight after their goal. Haller just come on the pitch. Yeah. Through, and a striker should be putting that kind of chance away. Yeah. That's your meat and drink. If you're a striker, you should be putting those away.
Exactly. But they both were, and the Antonio one, it's almost like they were trying to place it in. Both of them were trying to be clever, and it's like, Nick Pope's a great keeper. You just got to smack it. Really,
it's got to be really Dick School at that moment, hasn't it? Just blast it.
Exactly, just blast them. So Jim, obviously we see the West Ham shirt. We talk about West Ham.
Yeah.
Why is West Ham your club? What's the story? How did you become a Hammer's Hammer?
I think the real blame lies with my mum, although she was ever inflicting this upon me. When I was a kid, we moved a lot as a family when I was a youngster, a lot. And there's a lot of places I could list off, but in and around London, I don't know if my dad was on the run at the time or why we moved so much, but mum was an Epsom lass and dad was from Edinburgh. And I wasn't really interested in football till around the age of about 7 or 8. And I used to have a kick around. Obviously, I used to enjoy kicking the ball around. But in those days, there was no Sky Sports News or anything. We only had a little black and white telly. I wasn't really aware that there were even teams that existed, to be honest, at that age. And then it came up to Mexico 70, the World Cup. And someone gave me a Mexico 70 book with the England squad in it. It was the first football book I ever had. And I sort of became aware that there was all these football teams with names of places, Manchester and what have you. So at this stage, now we're living in Hemel Hempstead. We moved from Epsom to Hemel Hempstead. So I went to Mum and I said, look, what's the local teams here? Who of Hemel Hempstead got a team? Thankfully, she'd never heard of Watford, so she didn't mention it. And she said, well, I don't know about here. She says, but we used to live near Crystal Palace. I've never heard of Crystal Palace. She says, and we used to live near West Ham. And I thought, I'm sure I've just seen that name in this book. And of course, in the book, you've got Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst, and Martin Peters, although he joined Tottenham at that stage. Yeah. Still quite a bit about West Ham in there. And I was like, that's my team. But without much, because we'd been on the move so much, I didn't really have any sort of hobbies or any long-standing friends or anything to influence. Dad was just interested in rugby and drinking. He was a typical Scotsman. So there was no influence there. So it gave me something to identify with, and I really threw myself into it. Jeff Hurst was immediately my first favourite player. And true to West Ham form, the first season when I was actually aware of what was going on and you're playing matches and you win some week and lose a lot over the next few weeks, we finished 20th out of 22 teams. And having stuck with them then, I thought there was no way that I was going to drop my allegiance over the rest of my life. Having witnessed that dross, what I say witnessed, again, there was match of the day on a Saturday evening, which I was allowed to stay up and watch now and again, but there was no other. The sports night with Coleman in the midweek, but they never had any live football on. So you learnt a lot of your football through newspapers and through books and things until you could actually get to the ground. And I managed to do that when I was 9. First game, remember it not like yesterday, but like a few weeks ago, because it was so vivid. It was just everything. It was in colour for a start, and you only had a black. Yeah. But it was 27th of Jan 1973. It was a game against Chelsea. I was 9, and in those days, even a London derby, you didn't have to have a ticket when you rolled up. You could just pay on the gate to get in. But it was rammed. It was rammed to the rafters. And the guy I was with, I just remember everything about going in. There's a forest of legs in the back of the stand when everyone's milling around. The smell of burgers and beer that would become so familiar over the years. And then that first glimpse of green as you're going up the steps to see the pitch. Excuse me. And we won 3-1, so it was a great start. Brian Robson scored 2 goals, which I just didn't see at all. Tommy Taylor scored with a header, which I did see that one, thankfully. And I saw Bill Garner, as a bloke who played for Chelsea, I saw his foot as he tapped in their consolation goal. But the thing that stood out for me as well was in those days, they used to open up the back of the stands with about 15 minutes to go so people could filter away. And we could see in the Chelsea end, a lot of people had started disappearing. So we actually went out the back of the stand and we went into the Chelsea end. No idea that you were putting your life at risk or anything, West Ham scarves. And we got right down to the front. So the last 10 minutes of the game, had a really good view of everything going on, right down by the side of the pitch. But funny enough, even though the 70s were meant to be quite a dodgy time for, a bit of nasties, no one said anything to us. But the best bit was, a couple of minutes after we got in there, the best way I can describe this woman is she looked like Doc Cotton off EastEnders. This woman appeared behind us with a headscarf on, 3 bags of shopping, so she'd obviously just been down the market and been doing her shopping, pulled her West Ham scarf out. She must have seen us stood at the front, and she came and joined us. So it's the 3 of us, like 2 9-year-old lads and a woman who must have been about 70, stood in the Chelsea end, cheering on West Ham. So that was my first memory, and a very, very vivid and treasured memory as well.
Yeah, and you're
That
right.
was it, I won't say in a nutshell, but that's it.
No, it's brilliant, man. And you're right. I mean, it's not. I mean, as I said, we're not in it for the football, and it is about the experience, isn't it? It is about the
Yeah,
community and the West Ham family. We always talk about that. But
yeah,
that's sort of how this channel has come about. But obviously, in lockdown, it's been even more apparent, because obviously, part of the Facebook groups and stuff like that. There's loads of
yeah.
support and banter going around, and it's almost like people are at the ground, but not. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? And I think
Well, yeah, we've got no pre-match chat, have we, at the moment?
no,
So it's replaced the few pints and a bit of chat before a game.
it has, and I mean, I've been invited to countless Zoom watch-along parties and stuff, which I think is brilliant. It's so funny because it is just like you're at the pub
Yeah,
or at the game, but you just everyone's taking turns to talk, and it's like overlapping each other. Where
yeah,
in a pub, everyone would just carry on talking over each other. But I think that's the thing. Although football's back, and it's great that it's back, because it gives us something new to moan about. It's that sense of community and seeing your mates and stuff, which I think that's
yeah.
obviously lacking, and hopefully whenever it will be, I was reading about
It was very
tentative
important to
steps.
me as a kid, like you say, and it gave me something to identify with and
Yeah,
something to go on to, and obviously made some great friends over the years as well from travelling to football, and fortunate enough to have my career sort of in journalism, which was just finding an excuse to talk about football in my adult life. I've been, as I say before, very fortunate in the way things have panned out. But if I hadn't followed West Ham, if I hadn't kicked a football, God knows what I've ended up doing
yeah.
and where.
Well, I mean, yeah. We've had stories where people have very similar to you, where they literally, they've been watching Match of the Day, and their dad says, "What team do you support then?" And they just looked up and went, "That one." And then 60 years later, they're still supporting the same club, and it could have been
Yeah,
anyone, it could have been,
yeah,
could have been Chelsea or Liverpool, but it was West Ham. And
yeah,
as you said before we came on, you've experienced five relegations.
yeah. I remember I was at school when we got relegated in '78, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh, so who are you going to support now then?" And I think I stood there for about 5 minutes with an open mouth, just thinking, what kind of an idiot question is that? Because you do get your fair weather fans who like to chop and change depending on who's doing well.
Yeah,
Again, when I was in that 1970 period, when I was first nailing my allegiances to West Ham, there was a lot of Chelsea fans around because they just won the FA Cup.
yeah.
Then they all disappeared again through the late 70s and early 80s. Then they all suddenly reappeared again. Don't know why. Don't know why on earth these Chelsea fans suddenly started appearing again.
I wonder why. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like I'm a self-confessed glory hunter because I started watching them in the
We got a West
'92
Ham shirt on for them.
the '92 promotional season. That's why.
Yeah.
I was in it for the high life, and I've seen promotions, I've seen Intertoto Cup wins. I've
Yeah,
seen it
yeah.
all. I've seen it all, Jim. I've
The
lived.
Euro glory. We get teams like, QPR and I suppose Coventry won the FA Cup once. There's plenty of teams out there who've done absolutely nothing with their lives, of their existences. We've certainly had plenty of lows, but quite a few highs as well. We've got a few trophies in the bank. Certainly had a few semi-finals and finals to cheer over, and then playoff finals as well.
Exactly.
We've had some good times.
Yeah, we have, and and I was talking, and I interviewed Chris Akabusi, and he was talking about how, good old Boosie, what a lovely bloke. But he was said, I'm in it for the long haul at West Ham, and the thing is, we when we get those highs, so when we beat the Chelseas, or when it's our day, we revel in
Yeah.
it more because we're not used to doing it, and so all our Chelsea mates we go like at least once a
Seriously.
season, yeah.
If there'd been a camera on me and my lad's now 13, he's just turned 13. If there'd been a camera on us in the living room watching that Chelsea game the other night when the final whistle went, I think we were hugging for about 5 minutes, just like didn't know what to say. It was just amazing. What a great feeling.
It
We
was.
won't talk about Burnley, but that's the contrast. That's what happens with our club.
It's the West Ham way, Jim, isn't it? I mean, as I said, it's like I'm obviously at the ground and I could see, and it's a shame. I really wish I'd recorded it on my phone, but I saw Mark Noble because he wasn't in the squad for the Chelsea game, and he was sat in the disabled area, and literally the joy on his face when that goal came in, the almost knees on the floor celebration. You know, he could have punched a hole in that wall. He could have done, and it was just amazing.
There's a great picture of it's taken from behind the Chelsea goals. You've got Yarmolenko, and he's because it's focusing on the background, and you can see dotted around all the different West Ham officials and people just like forget social distancing. Everyone's hugging, everyone's punching.
It's so funny, and it's like, and you know, that's what makes me laugh about everything that's happened with Restart. Is, you know, we talk about the social distancing rules and things like that, and they're trying to enforce them and drinks breaks and stuff, and you're thinking, why on the drinks breaks? You know, it's actually it just seems the most bizarre. I mean, you know, it's one rule for one and one for the other. But I mean, you know, I think actually, I mean, and West Ham have done actually quite well in terms of the setup at the London Stadium. It works quite well. It's quite smooth. It takes literally about 2 minutes for me to get through. You know, you got to got to get temperature checked and write your thing, and that's it. And I'm really impressed actually by how simple it was. I've seen some grounds. I've read some articles with some journalists about some grounds, and it's an utter nightmare. But for some reason, West Ham have got it right. London Stadium's got it right for once.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully, you know, we'll get this season out of the way. We'll stay in the league. And then we'll see what happens next season about getting everyone back in, or you know,
got to get. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do with Haller because we're in 40 million quid. What would we get for him right now? It's unlikely we're going to play with two other strikers alongside him, which is obviously when he was showing out well in Germany. So I don't know where we go with him, but it would be nice to see David Moyes given a chance from the start of the season rather than picking up a mess halfway through the season. Just to give him a go. I think he's deserved that. I know there's still got a lot of critics out there, but you know we've tried the Real Madrid type manager with Pellegrini, and that worked a little bit. You know, he wanted to do things his own way, and then actually you start looking at people like the keeper he brought in and everything. It's like, we don't want another Roberto type situation. So give that. I don't like this chopping and changing all the time. I do give people a chance. Give him a chance. See how we get on.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you can see he's starting to put the. Obviously, the results have been fantastic, apart from the last, you know, the two previous, with obviously Newcastle game and the Chelsea game. But you can see there's a blueprint there, which I think will work well. You know, getting the players like Jarrod Bowen in, getting the hungry Championship British-based players as like a spine. You know,
he wants his workmanlike players in there.
Yeah, he does.
That does work to a degree. I mean, the stats have been showing that West Ham have gone from one of the worst teams in terms of fitness before the break to one of the best teams running since lockdown. So he's obviously had the team on. He's obviously managed to sort of get that mentality into them that we're not going to win any matches by standing around. It's just Haller doesn't seem to have picked up on that message, but you know, there are signs there. There's naivety still there in certain things, but again, you know, that Burnley game, their winning goal was a shoulder to crossbar and goes in. Tarkowski should have been sent off. There's lots of things you could come out with. You know, just one of those matches where it just didn't work for you on the day.
Nah, nothing was dropping for us, wasn't it? There was a couple of times where it was a loose ball and it was a yard in front of Bowen's foot, and you know where. You know, another game.
He had to double back, didn't he, rather than be able to volley it in? And you know, there's big tests coming up. We'll see how we get on.
We'll see how we got. Anyway, until then, we're doing this thing called the My Hammers 11. So you know, I mean, I would probably assume maybe Haller's not going to be in your 11, Jim.
Consider it long and hard, mate. I tell you. Ruminated over that one.
So what we do is we pick players, and you know, it doesn't have to be the best players. It can be your favourite players, whatever you want to do. The only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. Really, so obviously I can't put in Bobby Moore, but I could put in Roger Johnson, for example. Seems a fair mix. I always try to get a really random name always pops into my head.
Great start. All these people I've not considered before. Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you want more time to think about that, or maybe the inclusion of Gary Breen, or have a Margas, or Guillermo Franco, feel free. You know, but
I've had enough time and enough years, mate. So I mean, fortunately, that's where coming old comes in handy, because I have seen quite a few people play.
You've got a nice spread.
As I say, you know. first match in '73, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
27 years ago. So yeah,
got spread.
Come and gone during that time. I'm going to put my reading glasses on just in case I forget.
Put your readers on, Jim. Put your readers on. And then once you've got them, we'll start with goalkeeper. Who's between the sticks with the Munro 11?
There can only be one man, really. Although there's a couple of guys probably need an honourable mention. So obviously, Ludek and Kloshko, great club legends. Rob Green, who I was actually had the chance to work with just from a journalistic point of view. He used to write a column for us. Quick Rob Green story, actually. If I start waffling on lots of stories, just stop me if it gets boring. Okay. Quick Rob Green story. I'll take these bins off again. His first column that he wrote for us, when it arrived, all the words, everything was run together. There was no paragraphs. There's a few spelling mistakes, but obviously hadn't been through any kind of word processing. So I phoned him up and said, Rob, what? Thanks for your copy. Generally, it's okay. But it's all into each other. What software are you using? What word processing are you using? And he went, oh yeah, BlackBerry. I was like, what? He said, yeah, BlackBerry. So I typed on my BlackBerry. He sat and typed. Do you remember the BlackBerries with like all the little individual letters? He typed a whole article using his thumb on a BlackBerry. I said, what? Have you not got a laptop? Man of your means, and all the finance available to you. Have you not got a laptop then? So you could easily file it by Wi-Fi. He says, well, I don't have any Wi-Fi. I said, well, sure you've got a telephone at home. He goes, I don't believe in BT. It's a rip-off. So, what? How much are you earning? But eventually, he got himself a laptop and filed properly. But to that point, he'd only got a mobile phone and it was a BlackBerry and he was doing this little typing. Anyway,
Brilliant.
Getting on to my main man, Phil Parkes.
Yeah.
Not only just a lovely fella, but it was one of those signings when we took him on 1979. It was one of those it was a shock for two reasons. One, QPR had just been relegated, and it was expected that he would go to one of the bigger clubs, Man United or the Arsenals or Liverpools of this world, because we were already down. We'd been down for a season, and we paid a world record fee for him. It was like $565,000. So to suddenly be signing the world's most expensive goalkeeper when you're in the tier down from the top division was a bit of a shock, but I welcome him. And he didn't let us down. And when you look at that period he played in, obviously the promotion team only lost 4 matches. He was in the 80 Cup final team, the 81 Cup final, the 85, 86. I mean, he was there during that, what you would call like one of the golden periods, if you like. And he was a colossus in goal. Not as agile as the modern day goalkeeper, obviously. And he had dodgy knees towards the end as well. But I tell you what, if players were running through, they were thinking Parkes could come out and absolutely take them out while taking the ball cleanly. And he's, having met him subsequently, he's a lovely fella as well. So there's absolutely no doubt my number one is Phil Parkes.
Yeah, we'll put Parkes in. Good shout. And do you know what? And that's the thing. I'm learning all this stuff because I wasn't around during those times. Sorry, Jim. Yeah. But again, just reiterating, paying a world record sum for a goalkeeper when you're in essence the championship, is mental. Absolutely mental. But,
that's how it felt at the time. It was like, how have we managed to do this? As I say, it's one of those signings where you're like. The Tevez Mascherano, it was like, where's that come from? Only this was hugely more successful because he was obviously with us for a lot longer.
But, I totally get that. I'm just moving my screen because it's a bit annoying. Right, yeah, no, totally. And as you said, I mean, I can see parallels. I remember that Tevez one. That was always fun. When it came up on the BBC ticker and you were the talk of the office. I was talking the office that day. My CEO, Russ, who's signing Tevez? Yeah, well, congratulations. Thank you. I'd like to take full credit for Pardew.
I used to have a running argument with a Newcastle fan at the Sunday Times office about which was the bigger club. And he came up to me that morning and goes, I take it all back. He goes, West Ham's the bigger. How can I argue with Tevez and Mascherano in one deal? I've never forgotten that. Funny.
Oh, brilliant! Right, go on, Jim. You carry on. You carry on. You go for your team as you want to.
Do you know what, Russ? When I was thinking about this, I was thinking what this team really should be: the two Ferdinands. It should be Jermaine Defoe. It should be Michael Carrick. It should be Frank Lampard. because they should have been part of our long-term history. They should have been. They were the youngsters that we had that, my God, can you imagine what it would have been like if we'd held on to that? Joe Cole missed out as well. All those players in the same team would have just been, there wasn't to be. So back to reality. Right back, actually someone who played in the same team as Phil Parks, Ray Stewart, Tonka.
Yeah.
I think there's a familiar thing comes up. As I was going through some of these players, immediately all their nicknames was coming to mind. I thought, if they've got a nickname, they're obviously around long enough for us to to take to our hearts.
There's no glossary of nicknames. When I interview the old players and they talk about their their teammates by nicknames. So in Taylor Gales, I'm going to put Stretch in and I'm going to put Robot in, and I was like, okay, and just hoping I can understand it when he started talking about Alvin Martin Moore or whatever. But it's you're right. It comes to a certain time in a player's career at a club where they get a nickname, isn't it? And as you said, then that establishes they've been in there for
there were some toy cars around at the time called Tonka cars that were indestructible. Yeah. So Ray Stewart was Tonka because he was indestructible. I mean, obviously, everyone talks about his ability from the penalty spot, and my God, what a man he was to take a penalty under pressure. I mean, some of the ones that just stick in the mind. There's a lot of Ray Stewart moments from the penalty spot. But FA Cup quarter final, 1980 against Aston Villa, last minute 0-0, we get a penalty, puts it away, no problem. League Cup final 81, again, last minute, we're only just gone 1-0 down. He steps up, it's 1-1, we take them to a replay. And that 86 season, the last few games of the season, we were playing like every 2 or 3 days. So a lot of pressure on to cram games in. And I think we had, I may be wrong because I've not looked it up, but I think we had Man City and Ipswich at home, and then West Brom away on the Saturday, and then the final game was going to be Everton the following week. And both the Man City and Ipswich games, he got what turned out to be the winning goals through penalties. Then the West Brom game on Saturday, we won 3-2, and he got another penalty, so 3 pens in 3 games. But that was the one where Liverpool actually won away at Stamford Bridge and they clinched the title. So we got back to the car thinking we're still in it, and then obviously found out Liverpool had won the title. But I mean, he kept the belief going that final week, and he was a great. I mean, he could ping a pass out as well. He was a great player to have as a fullback. Very fit too, very agile. Had quite a stilted run. It was a bit of a funny run, sort of staccato run, but my God, he could cover some ground.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's one of those areas, fullbacks, where we haven't been blessed with a plethora of like, people like Ray Stewart. Do you know what I mean? We have 1 or 2, but in my era, not really. I mean, Tim Breaker maybe, but not on the caliber of Ray Stewart. But we'll put Tonka in. Go on then. Who are you going to go next with, Jim?
Well, we're talking about left back. You probably won't be surprised to say there's only one guy in my eyes. It's Julian Dix. Yeah. Not called the Terminator for nothing. The thing about Dixie was, it's almost like a maligning to say that he was just like the hard man in the team. Obviously, Lou Macari made him captain and penalty taker. And those penalties, I mean, once they were hit, they were hit. There were scorch marks on keepers' hands when the ball went flying in the net. But he was a good footballer as well. I mean, he could ping a crossfield pass over. Again, very fit. It's just now and again the red mist would come down, and he didn't suffer falls gladly on the football pitch, and that sometimes got the better of him. But Souness took him to Liverpool. Must have seen something. I know he needed a hard man. He was trying to build a hard team at Liverpool, but it had never got the sanction from Liverpool to sign him if they didn't think he could actually play the game as well.
Exactly.
And just as a West Ham fan, you don't ask for much. You just want to see that someone's committed to the cause. And you're not going to find many bigger or better examples than Julian Dix.
No, I agree totally. And also, there's not many fullbacks who could dictate the game and also the crowd like he did. You know what I mean? He just it would be a crunching tackle, or he would just turn to the wherever he was, West Stand or the chicken run, who was playing left back, the other half, and just go come on, and everyone would literally just. The team and the crowd would just, and it's not a glamorous position, left back, but he was, he said he was captain, and hearing all the stories about him and the way he trained, and the fact that he had, a can of Coke and a Mars bar, and then would go and play mesmerically on the pitch. You know, just brilliant. Just the whole aura about the man. No, big fan. Yeah,
I mean, that was the thing as well. Being on the in the chicken run, I was in the chicken run for years, and obviously you're more aware of the wingers and fullbacks, and so you get to see all the little slide tricks that he could do as well. You know, be going in for a tackle, and if the referee was over there, he'd have his hand on the guy's shirt here, ready to pull him over, which the ref wouldn't be able to see. I mean, it's all the little things he used to do. It was fun to see him play. It was just fun to see him play.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I've put Julian in. We've got Ray on one side, Julian on the other. Who's your next? You going centre halves?
I've got two centre halves, two centre backs. Number 5, because we've done 1, 2, and 3. I'm skipping to number 5. Number 4 can be in midfield. Number 5 is Stretch. I've already mentioned him. Alvin Martin.
Yeah. I know who he is now. Yeah.
His West Ham career, you know, it's sort of late 70s and then all through the 80s. Yeah. I mean, a club captain, very influential as captain, solid. I mean, he was the kind of player who you thought, well, okay, he's tidy, he does the job, but he's not, you know, doesn't do anything too fancy. But when he wasn't there, you noticed. You used to notice when Alvin Martin wasn't on the pitch, sort of leading the back line. And of course, he got that hat trick against Newcastle. Against 3 different keepers in the 8-1 win, which is a fantastic memory to have, and something that I mentioned to that Newcastle fan that I spoke about earlier. But just, you know, his commitment to West Ham and captain through that 85-86 season, where I think there was some record to do with clean sheets as well that he's proud of, that the rest of us were noticing more what was going on up the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, just his leadership, it was just... And it's nice to have a scouser. We've got a scout, because, like, Liverpool in the sort of 70s and 80s with a team to follow, it was like we'd nicked a decent scouser from Liverpool and we'd made him one of ours, you know? So, just all of those factors. I think he scored on his debut. It was away at Leeds. I remember hearing on the radio that some new guy called Alvin Martin had scored. So I was picturing some sort of lithe centre-forward, and then found out he was some young centre-back that had come into the team. But yeah, Alvin, and again, he's one of these players who, if he did have a chance in front of goal, the amount of times he would just place the ball, very calm player, and he wouldn't like lash at the ball. He just like place it in a little gap he could see between the goalkeeper and the defender. Yeah, a lot of time for Alvin Martin.
Yeah, definitely, and he's one of those adopted Cockneys, I call them. You know, where he's not from around these parts, but you know, he's an out of towner, as Nigel Khan would say. But he just got the club, didn't he? And you know, still lives around the I live in Aldchurch, still lives around here, and you know, he's just one of ours, isn't it? It's funny. It's like it's him and there's a few where they sort of have come in, you know, and a lot of Scousers as well, really. People like Mark Ward, you know, he came in and now he's very much a West Ham fan, but he wasn't one of us, you know, so to speak. But no, but Alvin's brilliant man. All right, we'll put Alvin in. Who's he going to partner then, Jim?
Number 6. So I think you can guess if I say number 6. It's got to be Bobby Moore.
What? Sorry, Bobby Moore.
Oh, don't get started.
Famously retired the shirt. So
that's whole program in itself. But when he started turning up being a pundit on Match of the Day, I was like, no, Bobby Moore. Now, admittedly, Bobby Moore was playing in that game I mentioned, the first game I went to in 72, 73.
Yep.
All I really saw of him was sort of some blonde hair, sort of sing past now and again. I really didn't get much of a view of him at that game, I'm totally honest. But I did get to Wembley the following year for an England-Wales game. England won 3-0 and he was captain there. So I could actually see him this time. Yeah. So I've actually physically seen him play. But there's a lot of memories about Bobby Moore. Sadly, more around what happened in his final few months and his memorial service. I remember, because we weren't really aware that he was ill. But I think only the last couple of weeks, there was actually anything wrong with him. I think England were playing San Marino at Wembley. And after the game, I was with a couple of Sunday Times journalists. I'd been at Sunday Times a couple of years then, so I was still sort of in my sort of infancy, if you like, as a cub reporter. And Jonathan Pearce had been commentating on the game. Bobby Moore had been his co-commentator. Yep. And the two of them were stood in this kind of hospitality, a fringe of a hospitality area, and a lot of people were being introduced to Bobby Moore, and he was like smiling and shaking hands, but he really didn't look like he wanted to be there. He didn't look. He honestly didn't look well. And one of the Sunday Times guys said, "Look, I'll take you over and introduce you." And I said, "Look, to be honest, he looks like he just wants to go. Just leave it for now. There'll be plenty of other opportunities. Just leave it for now." And of course, there wasn't, because a few weeks later, sadly, he'd died. But I also, a very treasured memory, I got to go to the memorial service at Westminster Abbey, which, to be inside Westminster Abbey, sat with all this football elite. Obviously, the 66 squad were there. Franz Beckenbauer stood up and gave a talk. They played the commentary, the Kenneth Wolstenholme commentary, Bobby Moore going to lift the World Cup inside Westminster Abbey, sort of bouncing off the ceilings. An amazing emotional moment. And there's people like Jimmy Tarbuck as well, making people laugh with a few anecdotes. Kenny Lynch and some others. I mean, some of these names might not resonate with you, but at the time, they sort of part of Moro's crowd, if you like. But even so, still the fan in me couldn't resist going up to Trevor Brooking and Billy Bonds afterwards and getting them to sign the memorial service programme. And I remember going for a quick wee in the toilet outside, and Jimmy Greaves was in there, and I was like, this is it's quite surreal. But to have shared that moment with football's elite was quite almost a unique thing, really. Because at that stage, I think there'd only been one other non-royal who'd been allowed to have some sort of service in there. So yeah, that's quite a treasured memory. And the Saturday after he died, I was working at the Sunday Times, but that morning before I went to Wapping, I went down to the grounds. It was about 8:30, 8:45 in the morning, playing Wolves. And there was already a load of people there. The gates were covered in scarves and shirts and everything. But also, I don't know if it was Stoke or Southampton, but a coach pulled up, and it was some fans travelling to another match. They had red and white stripes on, they had red and white scarves, but they came up and they were putting their scarves on there as well. And no one was going, "Oh, what the hell are you doing here?" Everyone was just like, respectful and thanks for coming along and paying your respects and everything. And that was the real feeling of the football world coming together. So yeah, there's a lot of sadness around my Bobby Moore memories, sadly, but equally, when I was first in the club, and Jeff Hurst was my favourite player, but all the talk, if ever there was anything to do with West Ham, mentioned on the TV or in the papers, inevitably it was Bobby Moore this, Bobby Moore that, and everything. It was kind of accepted that he was head and shoulders above everyone else, and the rest was just trying to fit around him,
Yeah, totally. No, I get that, and yeah, I mean, it's and that's what I love about this channel is that the whole idea is, having this sort of caveat that you have to be alive to have seen them play means that not everyone will just put, if it was like your dream team of West Ham, everyone would put Bobby Moore in, but I've never experienced seeing him play or the man, so it's like it's just an empty gesture of me, really. Where obviously there's more of the experienced fans, I call you, Jim. I don't call you. Not old gits. No, they're the experienced fans. Having the memory, having those sort of personal stories about Bobby and about Jeff, and John Childs and people like this, who it means so much more than me just saying, or a 20-year-old bloke going, "Yeah, I'm going to put Bobby Moore in centre backs." Why? Well, because he's Bobby Moore, he's like the legend. But if that's it, that's all they know.
Yeah, he just was one of those players who he just didn't seem untroubled. Everyone else could be like shirt hanging out, hair all over the place and everything, and Bobby Moore just looked like he walked out of a salon and he was like immaculate. It's just. And then I mentioned Mexico '70. That was my first football book. Obviously, him playing against Pele in Brazil.
Yeah.
1970 World Cup, but still regarded as one of the best ever defensive displays by any defender, let alone an England defender. Well, England still lost the game 1-0. It was a very West Ham thing to do, but he was just no one could touch him. No one could touch him.
No, totally.
Right, moving on.
Yeah, go for it.
Someone on the stick in front of the back four, because the midfield's a bit lightweight because they're not great on tackling. So linking the midfield, just covering the defence. It's got to be Billy Bonds.
Yeah.
Billy Bonds was, for me, in the early 70s to the mid 70s. There were times when he was keeping West Ham up on his own. 73-74 season, he scored 13 goals. Now, admittedly, he was taking some penalties as well, but he talk about having a captain who would lead by example. If Opta Stats had been around at that time, I have no doubt Billy Bonds would have run further than anyone else. He'd have run faster than anyone else. He'd have put in more tackles than anybody else. He'd been top of the Opta Stats season in, season out. I mean, what a player, what a dedicated professional, so quiet off the pitch, and yet turns into this pirate captain on the pitch. West Ham had a reputation as being a bit of a soft touch in the 70s, going away from home, especially going up north. And he grew his beard out, and you had Frank Lampard had a beard, and Graham Padden had a beard, and Keith Robson came in, he was a hard Geordie, and he had a beard, and it really was like captain, a pirate captain leading his marauding troops, and it just gave West Ham a bit of a steelier edge. And of course, we won the cup in '75, and we won it again in '80. He was captain both times. He's just somebody like him. He was, after Jeff Hurst had left West Ham, and Jeff Hurst being my first Hammer hero, if you like, Billy Bonds was the man for years for me. You just couldn't want anyone more committed than Billy Bonds. No. And it just cut him, and he bled claret and blue, and he got cut quite a few times in some of the chances he put in, and it didn't stop him. He was a brilliant player.
Yeah, and as you said, so different from his sort of non-playing sort of character. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like humble, so quiet.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, he. I don't think. I mean, by all accounts, because I never had to deal with him being my manager, but by all accounts, he wasn't a very great manager, and wasn't great in relating to people in that respect. But again, was totally committed to the cause, and it hurt him when he lost his job, big time. I know that he and Harry Redknapp haven't spoken about it since, but he is the club, and what a perfect person to take over from Bobby Moore, if you like. This is after Bobby Moore had left West Ham. Billy Bonds kind of already was stepping up to be Mr. West Ham, and he was for many years.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And obviously, when we got the stand named after him last season,
yes. The club now have made some moves to kind of, hold the olive branch out and say, look, we recognise everything you've done for us in the past. Yeah. The sad thing there was he was twice selected for the England squad, and one time he was injured, Parks injured him, and another time he sat on the bench and he didn't come on. And I just, because Frank Lampard had his one cap, I think Paul Goddard had one cap. He was one of these guys who thought if he could just had one England cap, he deserved it. Yeah. He did it. He just didn't get it. And you see some people who've had an England cap who just not even fit to breathe the same air as Billy Bonds. But.
Well, it's true, and we have Julian Dix as well. It's like all these players. I mean, Phil Parkes was probably born about 2 years too late, whether before or after. He would have got the tail end of Schultz or Ray Clements. He was number 3, and so Anyway, we'll put Billy in. Who's your next player then, Jim?
What shall I do? I'll go from left to right.
Yeah, go for it.
So wide on the left, I've got 3 players now. Wide on the left, Alan Devonshire.
Yeah.
Dev was such a talented player. He, you hear people talk about how George Best could glide over the worst pitches known to mankind, and you can find YouTube clips of him doing that.
Yeah.
Dev was in the same mould. He could float around the pitch. He could flick the ball wherever it needed to go. He could flick it, and then before the defenders realised what he'd done, he'd run around them. The ball was being passed back to him, and he was away. He was such a good player, and he got clobbered a few times. He was always getting kicked up in the air, and he had 2 long-term injuries. And again, in the days before the internet and Sky Sports News and everything, at one stage we were convinced someone had bumped him off because he went missing for about 2 years. But he was such a great man to watch, and so creative. And again, when you sort of talk about actual memories, I mean, he scored against Everton in the FA Cup semi-final replay, where he did that kind of thing I was talking about, the 1-2. He ghosted in and then plonked the ball in the far corner. But one of my favourites was Chelsea away in 85-86 when West Ham demolished Chelsea 4-0.
Yeah.
Absolutely annihilated them off the park. And he scored the opening goal with, I think someone took a free kick, just tapped it to the side, and he curled it in from like 25, 30 yards. And he was wearing this kit as well. And it was, again, one of those crappy pitches, and there wasn't a mark on him. He was just floating around doing his business. West Ham could have scored 5 or 6 that day, or even more, to be quite honest. He was... I think that the problem with somebody like him is that he wasn't always in a fairly settled team that were doing well, but he played badly. You never came out of there thinking, well, Dev was off the pace today or he wasn't in his game. Sometimes he was just thinking far quicker than some of the players around him. I think he'd be suited to the modern game, to be quite honest with you. He was that skillful that I think he'd quite happily fit in. I know that there's a lot revolves around fitness these days, but he was such a pleasure.
No, I totally agree, and you're right. And that's something I didn't appreciate till I started probably doing the channel, because obviously I started to watch a lot of old games, and you forget how these people would, like you said, glide and do these, be incredibly tricky and quick on these bogs of pitches. And I watched that Chelsea game because we interviewed Frank McAvenny, and he was saying it was one of the worst pitches he's ever played on. And you look at it, and it was just mud. And to do what they did.
From what I remember, I don't know what they'd done to it. They used to let cars drive in the side of Stamford Bridge as well. I don't know if that's how they let the disabled fans in, but it looked like someone had driven across the pitch. It was in dreadful condition. But what a day. But that still ranks as my favourite ever away day.
Really?
It's been quite a bit leery outside before the game, as you can imagine with a West Ham Chelsea match. But to get in the ground and to just, from almost the first kick, we just dominated them. And like I said, we could have scored more than that. Jeff Pike missed one, which he would normally tuck away. I think Georgie Paris had a chance as well. I mean, it was just everyone was getting in on the act. It was just one of those days. Oh, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's what we like to see. Right. Okay. We'll put Dev on the left. Carry on. Just carry on, man.
In the middle, I'll go into the middle because it's someone who played again through the decades. Trevor Brooking. Trevor Brooking's one of those funny players that he couldn't really tackle. He couldn't really head a ball apart from a couple of notable occasions. He had no pace, and yet look how long he played at the top level. But also, when West Ham got relegated, he had opportunities to move, and he turned them down. He said, "No, West Ham's my club." He could have twice. He was offered decent money to move away, and he stuck with us through the bad times as well. This term intelligent footballer, just because he's quite eloquent, and he obviously has got quite a good level of intelligence, people say, "Oh, he was an intelligent footballer." But I do mean from a footballing point of view, he was an intelligent footballer because he was already working out where people were going to be moving to. And so that gained him that extra yard of space that he needed to play the right pass. And there's one thing I noticed from quite a young age. I noticed when he was about to flick the ball away to a side you weren't expecting him to flick it, for some reason he used to stick his tongue in his cheek like that. He'd be running along doing this. And I'll be thinking he's going to flick the ball out any minute. It's one of those things you notice when you're a fan, you're a game, and you suddenly spot something that someone does, then you can't not spot it in future. But the amount of times he'd do that, he'd poke his tongue in his cheek, and then the ball would suddenly be pinged over there or whatever. But yeah, I mean, what a great servant for the club as well. And it did infuriate me at times that he wouldn't like kick someone up in the air now and again. You think he must be getting frustrated here, especially times when he was getting pushed all over the place. But I mean, what a magical player.
Yeah, you're right, and you say you're totally right. Going down into the essence of the Championship in modern money, and staying there, but still playing regularly for England as well.
Yeah.
Such a bizarre concept.
It was said that if he didn't make a move, then he wouldn't play for England again. And some of the managers at the time were like, "Well, we really need players who are playing at the top level." It didn't faze him and didn't stop him getting into the team either. The loyalty alone is a big plus, but just to watch the guy play football was a dream.
Yeah. Put Trevor in. Who's your next player then, Jim?
Well, obviously Trevor Brooking will be number 10. Wide right, would be another number 10 if I could have 2 10s on shirts in the team. We'll have to call him number 7. Is Paolo Di Canio. And I know he's got his detractors who say, "Oh, you can never rely on him and everything." But honestly, if you turned up for a game and for some reason he couldn't play, he was injured or whatever, you'd be deflated before the game had even started.
So true.
Because the guy was literally capable of doing anything, and he could be absolute rubbish for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever. You know that game against Bradford when he was like trying to be substituted, and he had enough, being kicked all over the place, and then helped lead the fight back. But just some of the things that he did on a football pitch. I mean, one of my favourite matches was playing Arsenal, and Martin Keown had obviously been given the task of shackling and making sure he didn't do anything. And I don't think Martin Keown got within a yard of him. He turned Keown inside out over and over again. And Keown's not shy in putting in a heavy tackle and trying to make his presence felt. And for the winning goal in that game, he sort of flicked the ball one side and Keown went that way and he flicked it the other side and put it away. And then that goal against Wimbledon, we used to, at that stage, we had seats at the front row of the chicken run, but down at the South Bank end. And I was late to the game, and I didn't get in until about 7 minutes after kick-off. And I was worried, actually, that the gates were going to be locked when I turned up. I managed to get in, so I'm running down the front, hello to everyone who you recognise, obviously people who've sat there for years, get to my mob, and I just pulled myself under the barrier and sat down and said hello to everyone. And I looked up just to see Trevor Sinclair ping the ball across and Di Canio scissor kick it into the far corner. And I was knackered because I'd run to the ground, I'd run in and I sat down and everyone was like, whoa, they're all up on their feet again. And I'm like, I better stand. But yeah, I mean, if I'd been 30 seconds later, I'd have probably missed one of the greatest goals in West Ham's history. So
it's funny. It's funny the stories around that goal. You know, I've had some funny ones. Like Ian Dale was stuck in the Blackpool tunnel and missed it. We had Benji Lanyardo's dad had his back to the game when the goal happened, and all these things. It's absolutely brilliant. Like, where were you when Di Canio scored that goal? And also that was Freddie Canute's home debut. I remember that because he was outstanding that game as well. Yeah,
I remember Foe was having a good game. Poor old Mark Vivian Foe. I mean, he was a great, solid player for West Ham.
But I agree with what you said about Paolo. You know, he was just. He was that whole period was entertainment, wasn't it?
He was volatile. You didn't know what was going to happen from 1 minute to the next. But he could embarrass the best players in the world on his day. Seriously. And I also believe when we went down in 2002, 2003 with that record number of points, if Glenn Roeder hadn't been the manager, I don't think we'd have been in trouble in the first place, because for some reason, Roeder seemed to have it in mind that he needed to make an example of Di Canio to show that Roeder was now running the club. It's not Di Canio's club. I'm the manager. I'm running the club. And the set twos they would have on the touchline, and Roeder would actually dropped him from a few matches. Di Canio scored 9 goals in 18 matches that season. Now, if we'd had him around for a bit longer, I mean, we'd killed for someone who could score 9 goals in 18 matches. But, it wasn't to be. And he offered to stay on as well.
He did.
The club wouldn't entertain the idea. So it was sad seeing him go to Charlton, because I thought, well, we could definitely have used him in the Championship. But say la vie, that's the way of it. I mean, the time we did have him was a great time. Yeah. And obviously, you talk about people who we've adopted from away from the area. He's a classic example. Yeah. I don't know if you saw recently, he did that video wearing a West Ham shirt talking about keeping yourself safe in lockdown, where he's juggling a football and he's gone. Yeah. It's obviously very close to his heart still.
Yeah, I mean he's inked. He's inked with West Ham. He's got a tattoo, and what I loved about that video was it wasn't like one of his shirts. It was like a 1950s, 1960s retro shirt. So someone's bought that.
Shirt someone just handed to him, was it? Yeah.
Exactly. So either he's bought that or his PA or whatever. But still, there's been a thought process got in there. No, I love him. I love him. Yeah. Absolutely box office. Okie dokie. Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, and then we've got 2 positions to fill up front. Yeah. One's a bit of a problem for me, so perhaps I better leave that till the end. One's an easy one, number 9, Jeff Hurst.
Yeah.
It was my first West Ham hero. he was penalty taker as well, and used to put quite a lot of welly into his penalties. A couple of Jeff Hurst things. First time I got to interview him was going to be a telephone interview, and he was having a family day, so he said he was going to be at a pub somewhere in Hampshire. But he said, "Don't worry," he says, "I'll phone you at whatever time we'd agreed." So yeah, great. That time came, it was like about 5-6 minutes had gone by, and then suddenly my phone went, and a very scratchy mobile line. So, "Hello, Jim, it's Jeff Hurst. Can you hear me?" I was like, "Yeah, fine." He goes, "I'm standing in a field. I've had to climb over a hedge." He said, "There was no reception in the pub." He said, "I'm standing on a little hill because there's some cows around here and I don't like the look of them." I thought, I'm interviewing England's World Cup hat-trick hero, and I'm making him stand on what sounded like a pile of cow
pat. Oh, God.
in a field. And then the first thing I did was tell him off for making me cry when I was 9 because he left West Ham to join Stoke. So the first thing he got was but also telling off terms, he had a penalty. West Ham played Stoke in an epic League Cup semi-final encounter in 71-72. And in the second leg, West Ham had won the first leg. And I think we'd won the first leg 2-1 and 1-0 down in the second leg. So if away goals had counted, I think we'd have gone through. But we had a penalty and Jeff Hurst stepped up. Jeff Hurst always scored his penalties. Gordon Banks was in goal. Hurst banged one in as usual, and Banks somehow, as he's diving down, got his hand to it, and it just fizzed over the bar. And I was in tears. It was the first time I cried as a West Ham fan. Couldn't believe that we'd not beaten Stoke, and it went to another replay, and then we eventually lost. But again, years later, I got to interview Gordon Banks. There's a bit of a theme to my interviews. It's like, you made me cry when I was 9 years old. And again, a lovely old fellow, Gordon Banks. He proceeded to describe in exact detail his thought process, because he said that's one of the moments that he remembered as a professional that really stood out in his career. So again, I go back, I keep droning on about how fortunate I've been over the years. But when there have been moments that have affected you as a child, as a football fan, and then you're able to ask the actual people involved in later years what was happening, what was going on, it's such a privilege to have been able to have done that. And I do treasure all those moments that I've been able to. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be in that position to do that. So Jeff Hurst is in there. Subsequently, he was at some London 2012 thing. And I took my lad along because my lad would have been about 5 at the time, and took him in and introduced him to Jeff Hurst and everything. And I was chatting about this to my lad the other day, and he can't remember a thing about it, but he can remember me buying him a can of Fanta on the way out. He was like, "How can you remember that?"
That's the same as my daughter. She's exactly the same. It's the minutest. Oh yeah, we had chips on the way home. What?
Yeah. It was in Hyde Park at one of these Olympic sort of village type things. He's just met Jeff Hurst. He's like, "Oh no, yeah, we had a Fanta and a hot dog, didn't we?" It was like, "How the honestly." But yeah, so Jeff Hurst is in there now. The other striker is kind of a double act. It's very hard to split them up, and I've mulled over this long and hard, and I really don't know what to do, Russ. I really don't know what to do. It's Machiavelli Cotti.
Yeah.
Well, how do you separate Machiavelli Cotti? I mean, Machiavelli got 26 goals and Cotti 20 in that 85-86 season.
Yeah.
Tony Cotti, that his debut goal against Tottenham when he was 17, magical moment. Some great goals. I remember he scoring a goal when we came back and beat Chelsea 5-3. He scored a kind of overhead kick, scissor kick. I don't think that's on YouTube anymore. I don't think it was on the telly at the time.
I couldn't see it the other day, actually. So I watched it.
Nottingham Forest, he got another one where it's a kind of sideways scissor kick. But Machiavelli, that 85-86 season, you probably won't be aware, I don't know, but there was a TV blackout in terms of football until January. So there was no football on the television. So Machiavelli had only just joined West Ham, and he was like a secret weapon because no one even knew what he looked like until he appeared on the Wogan show, I think, around September time. And it was the first look anyone had of outside of West Ham, who'd already beaten up to that stage, of who Frank Machiavelli was. We had a pre-season game again. I mean, our first sighting, we had a pre-season friendly away at Cambridge. And the stadium announcer says, and now coming on for West Ham is Frank McKeeven-Vanny. And we're like, who the is this Frank McKeeven bloke? And he came on, and I think within about minutes, he'd beaten 2 people and curled the ball into the far corner. And he'd come on as a midfielder. He wasn't playing as a... So, and then away against Birmingham, first game of the season, we lost 1-0. I remember Mark Ward's, that might have been Mark Ward's debut. He had a cracking shot. We think he's a useful player. And again, McAvenny was playing a sort of advanced midfield role. Was it Paul Goddard?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've really gone off on one here, but I think Paul Goddard was right, and he got injured.
Yeah.
So then McAvenny had to move up front for the next games, and then something clicked.
Yeah.
Don't know what it was, but my God, I think we lost 3 out of the first 4 games that season, and then we just ran away. There's no stopping us after that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I remember someone mentioned about McAvenny when he signed, and they'd never heard of him, and I think it was a pre-season game at Orient, and they thought he was Italian. Because he had this like flowing blonde locks, and he called him Frank Macaroni. That was his nickname for him. This blonde Adonis, but it was.
I didn't know anything about him. Yeah, he just come out of nowhere. The transfer fee we paid for him to St Mirren was pretty minimal, and it certainly hadn't been brought as an out-and-out goal scorer. So yeah, those first few months of that season, we were just running riot. We were scoring goals for fun with Cottee and McAvenny. I think Tony Cottee was very focused on just doing what he needed to do to score goals. Whereas I think Frank McAvenny was could link up more with the midfield players and was more of a kind of all-round footballer. So I'm not denigrating Tony Cottee's contribution, obviously.
No, not me.
Cotee to pieces, which is why I can't separate the two. I don't know which one. I'm tossing.
Well, I think what we can do, Jim, is we can assume that anywhere north of Watford, Paolo won't be in. So, so we can. Yeah, from Old Trafford and Everton, obviously, when he picked when he caught the ball. So I'm not going to ask you to split the difference, Jim, because I think it's too close to your heart, man. But they'll both be in the squad. I'm getting soft in my old age, Jim. But I can see your hurt. I can see your worry and your anxiety.
Man, honestly, I've not agonised about anything so much. One thing which one to put in, And again, we had both of them rejoin the club. Yeah. I just remember the buzz around the club both times when both players came back. I remember, I think we were playing away at Norwich in a midweek match when it was announced McAvenny was coming back, but he obviously hadn't been signed in time to play in this match. And I remember standing in a pub in Norwich and we were all singing "We've Got Our Frankie Back." And it's those moments, the shared moments as fans that you're looking forward to the return of a prodigal son almost.
Yeah.
It's moments like that just carry you through.
It's totally true, and you're right what you said. It's those moments, it's those funny moments where you're talking and there's a new chant or someone says something and they just stick in your mind. As you said, you're playing Norwich. It's the same as when we talk about Paolo, and when you turn up and you're thinking who we're playing, we're playing Bradford City. You're thinking, oh God. We still talk about that game over 20 years later. We played Bradford City, but it's all those memories, and that's what's great about this. But Jim, man, it's been great chatting to you, man. It's been great chatting to you. It's been
real fun. I mean, there's other players. Just before I go,
of course,
if Dean Ashton hadn't got injured, I mean, what a finisher that guy was! Great player. I was pleased. I was able to take my lad to the Mark Noble testimonial.
Sure.
And so he got to see Dean Ashton score with an overhead kick and then virtually get carried off because he did himself in. And Craig Bellamy. I mean, Craig Bellamy.
Again, them two.
We had Etherington, Dean Ashton and Craig Bellamy as a front three bombing forwards. I'm like, if that could have stayed together for a while.
They would have been like my Cottee, McAvenny and Ward and Dev. It was like, it was there. The pieces were there. It's just, as with always with West Ham, it's always one injury or...
Yeah, and Carlos Tevez, we only had him for such a brief time, but again, what a contribution. It was not enough to muscle his way into a Munro 11 because he's got to be around for a bit longer than half. But although the first half wasn't his fault, he just wasn't picked by a certain Alan Pardew. But there's some of the guys who've been around, and of course, Mark Noble. I mean, I did think about where could I put Mark Noble in.
It's tough in that team. It's tough in that midfield to get him in, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe he needs to become manager and lead us to a few successes. And put him put him in as manager.
Yeah, to put his manager. You get
That'll
it sorted. That'll do. Yeah, or at least first team coach. No, yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, Mark's, in essence, Mark's sort of my Billy Bonds because I was never around to see Billy play.
Yeah.
But he's my Mr. West Ham, and and I think he's he's gonna be one of those players that will stay around the club, obviously after he's retired.
The thing as well is, we like seeing players coming through from the academy and the first team. I mean the playoff final in 2005 when we beat Preston 1-0, and Mark Noble was in his tracksuit behind the goal, the first player to leap on Bobby Zamora when Bobby Zamora scored. And and here we are watching him all these years later, 15 years later, and he's West Ham captain, and it's just amazing to see that longevity. When are there going to be any more one club?
There won't be. There won't be, Jim. It'll be the whole concept of staying for more than 3 years is alien to footballers nowadays, or managers as well. It's like you're right. I mean that sort of that era with Stretch, check me out, with Stretch and Reg and those people. It's like I know. I mean, when I interviewed Tony Gout, every year he was at the club was a testimonial year, pretty much. And the whole concept of a testimonial is more of it's very rare. I can just think of Mark Noble, Vincent Kompany, Gary Neville, Carragher. I can't mean,
it's true. I've never actually thought of that recently, but you're right. I mean, back in the day, there was testimonials all the time for a lot of the West Ham.
You just don't get anyone else.
Around,
Although technically, Winston Reid is up for 10 years because we signed him after the 2010 World Cup. Right. So I think next year will be his 50th. So it would be a testimonial year for him. But you're right. I mean he's not Mark's banging on 500 appearances, isn't he now? So I think he's got 2 more or something like that, and he's hit 500, which is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
We've been lucky enough to have some players coming in. I mean, Liam Brady when he came in, I know it was the back end. But another wonderful footballer. When he scored that goal in the last minute of his last appearance against Wolves, I was one of the Herberts running on the pitch to pat him on the head. You just couldn't help yourself. I remember hearing an interview with him not long after where he said he went running to the chicken run to celebrate the goal and saw the chicken run was running towards him. He was like, whoa, hang on.
Brilliant.
Don't know what to do. You can actually pick me out on the video of that goal as well. I've just pointed out to my son a few times, boring him to death with all my West Ham stories. But I've passed it on. It's a family thing. I mean, we live between Arsenal and Tottenham, and he's been flying his claret and blue flag since nursery school, and has not been swayed by the locals. He's stuck with West Ham. So fair play to him. I've inflicted that on him for the rest of his life, and hopefully to his children in time to come. And
same as my daughter. Same as my daughter. It's taken a while, but I think with the emergence of the women's team as well, it's really like we live 5 minutes away from Rush Green, 10 minutes away from Rush Green.
Oh right.
So when if it goes back to normal, we go there quite a bit. It's a couple of quid to get in, and she loves it.
Well, I know we had season tickets. I think it was like 20 quid for the 2 of us, or 10 quid and 5 quid or something. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. Obviously, the season kind of disappeared, but yeah, because we were going to go to a few of the women's games when the first team were away. And they play on Sundays as well, don't they? So give us
Sundays. They play at good times to get there, and that's probably why they do it, isn't it? So people don't have to choose between, obviously, when they got to the FA Cup final, and then there was the people leaving at half time from London Stadium to get to the FA Cup final, and you don't have to have that conflict of interest anymore now. But it's all good. Jim, man, it's been brilliant. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Seriously,
thank you
Russ.
So much.
I enjoyed every second of it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And obviously, thank you to everyone for watching as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I mean, Jim's got a YouTube channel, a gaming YouTube channel as well. Have a go at that.
Lad Dad. It's called Bad Lad Dad. It's all WWE wrestling games, though, so I'm sure people won't be interested. But we did have just again, I've started talking again. We did film at West Ham's last game at Upton Park, me and the lad. He was holding the camera in the car while I was driving, and then there's us in the ground just chatting away, and the crowd singing and some of the fireworks and everything. So there is a West Ham video on there. But yeah, yeah, people want to check it out.
Sounds great. Sounds lovely, Jim. And until next time, everyone, from me and Jim, take care, everyone. We'll see you again very, very soon. And to close, I like to do the crossed hammers, Jim. It's up to you if you want to do it, but that's how cool. I like to close my videos.
Cool.
Yes. Take care, everyone. See ya. Bye-bye.